All right, today we're going to be looking at analyzing loans. Now, what is a loan? A loan is when you borrow money for today that you promise to pay off in the future. It is the opposite, or it's the other end of investing. So wherever you borrow money from somebody or something, they are making an investment in you, and they will make money off of your the interest that you have to pay. So if you're not, it's really the opposite of investing. So there are many different types of loans, from short range or short term to long term. One short term loan that I can think of is a line of credit at your bank, for instance. And if you don't know what these are, talk to your parents. They have a lot of experience with this. Another short term loan, hopefully short term, is credit cards. Now, a longer term loan might be something like a mortgage. So a short-term loan might be a couple of days, whereas a longer-term loan, like a mortgage, might be over 25 years. So really, we borrow money over different time periods. Most of the calculations will be to find interest, or the payments, or the time it takes to pay off. And it's very similar to investments. So the difference between loans and investments is that investments, you earn interest. So you're rewarding yourself for saving. Whereas a loan, you pay interest, or you have to pay a penalty for borrowing. Sometimes this penalty is called the cost of borrowing. Now, the way that I like to think about investments and loans, now loans aren't inherently bad, you just have to manage them. But when you invest money, you're making your today more poor and making your future more rich. Whereas when you borrow money, you're actually making your today richer, but you're making your future self more poor. So let's just jump in. What we'll see is that there is a lot of similarities between this and investing. Carlos' employer loaned him $10,000, fixed at an interest rate of 6% compounded annually. So 6% interest. They loaned him $10,000 compounded annually to pay college tuition and books. The loan is to be repaid in a single payment. At the maturity date will be 5 years. So I think a great place to start would be the time value of money solver in your calculator here. So you're probably reading this, and there's very little difference between what we've done previously. So always with the time value solver, I like to, whenever I have this situation, I pull up my calculator here. There it is. And I take down my variables. So I'm going to do that right now. There we are. I've started my calculator. I opened it up, and simply I just wrote down my menu. Now I'm just going to revisit the question and fill all of these in. So please press pause and fill in the variables. This question is very similar to one that we have done before. So how much payments is Carlos making? Well, it's not set at all. It is, he will pay the whole amount at the maturity date in 5 years. So how many payments are we making? Well, we're making payments of $0. And whenever that happens, our payments per year is 1 payment per year by default. How much will Carlos need to pay his employer? That's what we're trying to figure out right here. That we're trying to figure out our future value. So it's in 5 years, so the number of payments will be 1 times 5. After I put all of that into my calculator, I should find out the future value. There is one note that I want to make here. Since we are receiving $10,000, we should enter a positive amount. In the future, we will have to pay that. That'll be money going away. So our output from our calculator should be negative. So let's take a look at our calculator and punched all those numbers in. I punched all those values in. That's what my calculator looks like. I'm going to figure out the future value. So I go to calculate alpha solve, and what I get is that the future value will be worth negative $13,382.26. Now I hope that's right. Now how much interest did he pay? Well, simply we can do one of two ways. So the interest is equal to the amount that is accumulated, my future value, minus the amount of my principal. So the interest that I pay is going to be $13,382.26 minus $10,000. However, we have this really great, so whatever this is, mental math, if I can do mental math, there we go. That's the amount of interest that I pay. However, I think it's really important to look at this function in your calculator. It's the summation of interest. Now, I'll be using this, and we've seen this again, right? I want to calculate, add up all the interest from, now these are a description of my payments, from the first payment to the fifth payment. And let's see what comes up. So, right, these are payments. Maybe write that down. These are payments from the first to the fifth. So now I'm hoping that I am able to go to apps, finance, and I'm just going to go all the way down. There we are, summation of interest. I'm going to click that. Oh, sorry, wrong. Let's try that again. Apps, finance. From the first payment, from payment number 1, comma, to the fifth payment, close it, and what I should get is that exact amount. Perfect. Let's move on to the next example. All right, the next example is still a part of the same question. What if Carlos wanted to pay off? Now, we have to read very carefully. If Carlos wanted to pay off a little bit every month instead of paying it back at the end, how much would he have to pay at the end of each month to pay this off in 5 years? What we're really trying to say here is we're trying to make monthly payments. So again, I'm probably going to use the time value of money solver in my calculator. And I'm going to write down my variables. Once again, this is how we show our work. And it also helps me figure out what's going on in the question as well. There we are. Now, I always like to save n to last because it's the variable that changes, that it can be the trickiest. Right. The interest. Well, one would assume that the interest is going to be the same as last question. So I'm just going to put it as 6. My present value. Well, my present value, I'm still paying, or I'm still receiving $10,000. How much are my payments? Well, I guess I am getting monthly payments here. This is what the question is. How much do I have to pay back each month? So this is my question. That's what I would like to figure out. My future value. Well, let's think of it this way. If I want to pay it off in 5 years, that means in 5 years' time, the future value will be 0. My payments per year, well, monthly payments, my payments per year is 12. And I think this is still compounded annually. So there we are. Anyways, now let's go back to n, the number of payments. Now, this is really, we have 12 payments per year times 5 years. And our calculator is going to figure that out, and it's going to be 60. So I'm going to jump to my calculator, input all of this, and look, I want to figure out how much my payments are. Wow. Lightning fast calculator coming up. That's what dial-up looked like, by the way, folks. So anyways, I'm going to go to Apps, Finance. I'm going to TMV Solver, and I'm going to take a look at all of I'm going to take a look at all of my inputs. So really this is 60. My interest rate is 6. My present value is 0. I'm going to put a whole bunch of 9s here. I'm trying to calculate my payment. My future value is going to be 0. Payments are going to be 12 per year. Compounding period. Do you see how it changed on me? That was a little bit tricky. So I better go down to 1. So now my payment, just going to calculate it. My payment is going to be $192.59. So there we are. I'm going to ask another question. What is the total amount of interest? So here, I could use and think about this. How much did I pay minus my principal? But I am going to use this fancy operation in my calculator. The interest that I pay is going to have to be from the first payment to the 60th payment now. Right? Remember that these are the amount of payments that I have. So when I do that in my calculator, perhaps allow me to take time to do that in my calculator starting now. So I'm going to try. The most important thing for the summation of interest calculation is to quit. Always forget to quit for some reason. So I go to the Apps menu, Finance. It's under A, I believe. Look for A, the summation. There it is. Now interest, I want to do the first payment to the 60th payment. And close brackets, enter, and there we have it. $1,555.39.